Are you, so you know how I learned about you is from David G. Oh,
That's what I figured, because I saw you had done his workshop.
yeah.
And yeah, he's a good friend.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
He mentioned you a few times, and that's why I got the book. And now I'm actually right now I'm drinking my first cup of tea, Ayurveda tea.
That's great.
Um,
Is that the CCFT, the
the,
cumin, coriander, fennel?
the CCFT, yes, I'm drinking it right now. I literally just boiled it like right before this call because it came in the mail about 2 hours ago.
Ah, did you get it from Banyan?
So I got it from like Pure Indian Foods. I think you might have
Oh,
recommended
oh,
that.
I did. I love them. I love the owner. I love everything about them.
Yeah, I figured I'd
Yeah,
support somebody that you recommended in your book, you know?
that's great.
So what I'll do is before we keep talking, because I want to talk about a lot of stuff here, I'll just get right into it.
Okay,
And
I just need to shut the door.
oh,
My husband left it open. Hold on.
do it.
Okay, here we go.
Beautiful.
Let me see. This way I can see you. And I'm wondering why I look so pale. Maybe I need to get outside. But
You look great. I have one of those like enhancing cameras, so it like enhances my features. So, you know, I
oh,
don't really
I
look
know
like
I
this.
can do that on Zoom. It has a thing on the video to well, video settings. I can try that. That's a really good idea. Touch up my appearance. Did it. Okay. Hopefully that did
Oh
something.
my gosh, that's so it's so funny how that
Oh
works.
wow, look at that. It like smooth. I look 56 instead of 57. It's awesome.
That's awesome. I love it. It does. It like smooths it over.
It
Oh,
does.
that's funny.
Weird.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
Okay.
whatever you want to do, I'm here for you. I listened to a couple of your podcasts. I thought they were great. So
Oh, awesome.
I'm
Thank you.
excited.
What can I ask which one
I
you listened?
listened to Cindy Weiss from Breathe
Oh,
because I think I emailed you the story about I
yes.
had a bookstore named Breathe. And then the woman that is like your therapist.
Oh,
I listened to
yes.
that one too.
Sarah.
Yeah.
She was super cool, isn't she? I
Hmm.
love her so much.
Yeah.
It was fun to switch the tables a little bit there.
Good. And when I
Um,
have more time, I'll definitely listen to more. I think you do a
but
great job. And it's good to hear where you're coming from. So I sort of get you Ayurvedically, you're quite pitta. So
yes, I am.
yes, very good, very good. And you're balancing it. We can talk about that if
Yeah,
you want.
absolutely. I'm excited. So I want to, as you know, I have to ask this question though, because I really, I like to do it to get the balance in the center of the start of our conversation. So, when you wake up in the morning today,
Yeah.
when you wake up, what really just makes your heart sing out loud for the day?
Well, we live in nature. So the first thing I see when I wake up is we live on the second floor in the woods and on 3 acres. And so the first thing I see in the summertime are just trees just completely full of leaves and the sun on them. The sun is rising in the east and I look out to the west. So I see the sun hitting the trees and that actually sets my day because if the sun isn't there, then it's kind of like, oh, I got to like rev myself up some other way. But if the sun is there and it's all dappled and everything, it just really wakes me up in a beautiful way, especially during the pandemic. It's tough. It's a really tough time. I have found myself not really sticking to a lot of my routines during the
Mm.
pandemic. Um, but we look around us and we see the beauty here and that really helps me. Then I see whichever dog is on the bed and then I see my husband. That gets me going. That does.
I love that. And what do your dogs like fight for the spot on the bed? Is that what happens in the morning?
Well, we have an alpha. We have 3 dogs and 4 dog beds because they like to switch around in the room, plus our bed. So,
Yeah, fun.
one from India loves to sleep like super close to my husband. She's like a Velcro dog on him. And my other one comes up around sunrise. She just likes to have sunrise with us and kiss us, wake us up. And my other one's 15, so she's just kind of hanging out, you know.
I love that you went to India and you brought back a dog. Like that's
Yeah, it
so,
wasn't on
so cool.
purpose. It
Sure,
just happened.
sure.
She was there.
The
Yeah,
universe like brought her to you, I'd imagine, right?
yeah.
Um, so the uh, you said a lot there that I actually wanted to ask you about, but I want to get right into Ayurveda with you, so we can use the time to discuss that. So can you just give, for my audience that might not even know what we're talking about, just like a simple summary of it?
Sure. So Ayurveda is Indian medicine. It's like Chinese medicine, but from India. So many people are aware of Chinese medicine in the US, acupuncture and herbs and so on. And so India has a system of medicine that started over 5,000 years ago, around the same time as Chinese medicine, but some say a little bit before. And they say Ayurveda is the first system of medicine ever created. And it means Ayur and Veda, the words together mean science of life. And it is an entire system of living. It includes medicine, it includes meditation, it includes yoga, it includes a type of astrology called Jyotish astrology. It has a type of feng shui called Vastu Shastra. It works with gemstones and chanting and aromatherapy, and just about everything your senses can take in is included in Ayurveda. And so we look at the different aspects of Ayurveda, which are based on the elements outside of us in the universe, and those are called the Pancha Mahabhutas, and that stands for 5 great elements. And we say those Pancha Mahabhutas are also within us. So we have outside of us, we have space and air, water, fire, and earth. And so we are also made up of those same exact elements. And so we look at people very individualistic. So there are 3 types of bodily constituents, and they're called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And Vata is made of air and space, Pitta is made of fire and water, and Kapha is made of earth and water. And so they have different attributes, and they're all treated differently. So if they have illnesses, they're treated in a certain way. If they have an overabundance of those mind-body constituents, which are called your dosha, if you have an overabundance of that dosha and you're out of balance, we look to use all those various ways I described in Ayurveda, food and herbs and Vastu Shastra and looking at your Jyotish astrology charts. We use all that to try and gently nudge you back into balance. And so, we say food is medicine. Yeah. And those are just the tip of the iceberg.
That's
5,000-year-old system.
Yes, 5,000 years old. That's what I thought was so cool about it. And as you're saying it, I'm thinking in my head like, oh, that was in the book. That was in the. So I'm definitely going to recommend Sarah's book throughout this, or at least in the intro and the outro of the podcast, because it was very informative for anybody that wants to just even add a little bit of Ayurveda in their life. So that's the first question I wanted to ask you, and we're going to get into those specifics you just talked about. But do we have to fully follow in order to is it okay to pull a few pieces from Ayurveda, or do you really recommend diving 100% in, because it seems very overwhelming to go all in at once?
Right. I always recommend baby steps, not to go all the way at one time, because it can be very overwhelming. And so when I work with a client one-on-one, we sort of look for ways in. I really take a look at their lifestyle and see what it is where maybe we can start. So for some people, maybe it's just starting with learning how to eat breakfast. Or some people, it's learning to eat dinner before 9 o'clock at night. Some people, it's getting them to drink more water. Some people, it's less water. Some people are, already doing a lot of things, and we want to advance along using maybe aromatherapy or some other types of therapies, herbal remedies, powders and herbs, and so on. So we really, I just tell everybody to start where they are, and each dosha reacts differently. So vata, that's comprised of air and space, they can get easily distracted. And if you give them too much information, they can be like, well, I have no idea where to go or what to start. Pitta dosha, who's more fire, which is Justin's dosha, is I think.
I am a pitta. No, I am a pitta. I've taken
Yeah.
a few tests, and you actually nailed me on the head before without even really having to.
Just from looking at your Facebook page, I can tell
Funny.
that you were Pitta. So somebody who really likes to challenge and likes to like just go all the way 100% right away and like, drink it all up and see if it works. But the problem with that is when it doesn't work for you that quickly, you can kind of be like, oh, it's not for me. And like you throw it away and you walk away and you go to the next thing. So that's why with Pitta especially, I really ask them to slow down and let's try things, piece by piece to see what fits in so that it becomes more of a lifestyle over time. Kapha dosha, who's made of earth and water, they're a little bit slower, they're a little bit sluggish, but they're very willing, once they see some benefits. So, but Kapha, you have to sort of light a fire under their butt to get them ignited a little bit to get moving. And sometimes I give my Kaphas a little bit more to do because Kapha likes to research everything. Oh. And then they really begin to see the benefits. Kapha can be excess weight, excess water, things like that. So it can take a little while. They have a deeper, like the dosha is more embedded in their body, so it's deeper. So we need to do a little bit more, work on Kapha, even in the beginning, I think, to get them moving. And a little bit slower with Vata and Pitta.
So with these doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, when it comes to Ayurveda, that's the first thing that's most important to figure out, right? Because everything else kind of is based around that. Am I right to say that?
Yeah, the problem with that is people tend to get all caught up in their dosha.
Okay.
And I have a friend, Lisa Coffey, who also knows David G, which is how you got to me. Yeah. Lisa Coffey wrote this book called What's Your Dosha, Baby?
I like that title.
I know, isn't that great? Because the dosha is like really sexy. Everybody wants to know my Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. People want to get into a box. And they feel more comfortable if they know and they know all the attributes and so on. But dosha literally means mistake or fault or imbalance. So it's not like you want to like cling on to your dosha. What I say to my people is to get an idea of your dosha. It can be a guideline. It can be a, sort of like post along the way, a milestone for you. But to really live seasonally. We really want to live with the elements. We want to be present. We want to understand. We want to have greater awareness of where we live, what's going on outside of our bodies, and how it affects us inside. So I want people to become more aware of the climate outside and inside, to understand how to best eat, what types of food to eat during which climate, what types of meditation to do, what types of exercise to do during those different climates, because we're very different in spring, winter, summer, fall. Nice. We are very different people. And often we don't adjust. We keep everything the same. Like we eat oatmeal for breakfast all year long. We eat salad for lunch all year long. We eat pizza or pasta for dinner all year long. And those aren't the right choices to make.
That's so interesting that you say that, especially, so I'm in Rochester. Where do you live, Sarah?
In Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore, Susan. In the woods. Oh, sorry, Susan.
Yeah, Susan. That's okay.
Oh my gosh.
They're all like these Jewish names of ladies over 50, so it's fine.
At least it's
Just
not
don't
Karen.
Call me Karen.
Yes, right? That's so funny.
Karen. No Karens, please.
Karen. We have, real quick, my wife's side of the family has an Aunt Karen, and she despises it so much.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Thank you. So by the way, that was a first in my podcast, is saying the wrong name, so that you get a prize. So Susan, that is honestly one of the most interesting things, because I have learned to be so regimented, right? Yeah, in the morning. And I never thought about changing for the seasons, but I can feel like my body wanting to change, right, at certain times. So I'm in Rochester, and in the summer we get a lot of sun, but that's only 3 or 4 months. If you know Rochester, New York at all,
Cold.
it gets
Snow.
cold in no sun we can
Hmm.
get no sun for like weeks at a time.
Hmm.
And so a lot of people get depressed. Is there, like, during those times, if I asked you to recommend it, and I guess as a pitta or a calf or whatever, is there something that we could do to adjust to that a little better?
Absolutely. And the reason why I'm really like hip on this right now is my new book, which I've just finished, is called Seasonal Self-Care Remedies. Or, sorry, Seasonal Self-Care Rituals. And it's all based on Ayurveda. And so I really took a deep dive into pretty much like our microbiome and the seasons, because there are like hunter-gatherer communities in the world, like in the far reaches of the jungles, where they've studied the microbiome, and they saw that it changes seasonally. And if the hunter-gatherers were eating the same food all year long instead of the food that was available seasonally, they would get sick, because their microbiome, their gut microbiome, all the bacteria and everything in their gut changes with the season, with the temperature, and with the bodily needs. And we also need to eat a variety of foods in order to stay healthy. We need different foods to feed our body at different times of the year. So for somebody, who is in winter for a longer period of time, there's a lot of things to take into consideration then, especially depression, because without enough sunlight, there can be a greater incidence of depression, sadness, the blues. Also, lethargy, laziness, not wanting to get up and go outside and do things, and Pitta usually still forces themselves to, but the others might not. But so that is especially important, to make sure that you're eating the foods that are locally available to you, because they're there for a reason.
Wow.
Like, eating salsa and hot spicy foods in the summertime just exacerbates the heat, but eating that in the winter helps heat up your body. So that would make more sense to eat hot spicy foods in the wintertime. So we want to do the opposite of the season. So during winter, late fall and early winter correlates to the dosha of Vata. So it's dry, it's windy, it's changeable, it's cold. It all, leaves start to dry up and fall off the trees. So it's a very different feeling from summer. It's like, whoa, you go right into this, this transition. And in Ayurveda, we say that period of time, that period of transition between seasons, is when most people get sick. So we really have to pay attention to those weeks when we're
Yes.
transitioning from one season to the next. And so there's a lot involved here, but
Sure.
basically, as we go into winter, we're actually hungrier. Our digestive fires, which in Sanskrit is called Agni, 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 your digestive fires really heat up in the winter to keep you warm. And so for you, Justin, you have a much longer period of time where your Agni is high. And when Agni is high, you're hungry. It makes you want to eat more. And that's what we want in winter. Because back in the day, we didn't have enough weight on us, and we needed to put on that winter weight in order for us to stay warm and so on. When we lived like in a cave, or,
You bulk
wherever
up
we
in the
were.
winter, right? It's the time to
Exactly.
bulk up.
Exactly. And it's okay. It's a natural thing for your body to do. And it's
Yeah.
natural to lose that weight in springtime as we
Ah,
get out and start working the fields and getting out more. So you lose weight. But so we want to feed ourselves properly. And those would be root vegetables, good oils, food that different carbohydrates, like good carbs and fats, are really important in the wintertime. So we want to look into increasing that in our diet. In my new book, oh, I see your little doggy.
my daughter just let her in.
It's so
I,
cute. So, what's your dog's name?
Gemma. She's like 11.
Gemma.
Gemma, yeah. Hey,
Hi,
Aria,
Gemma.
Aria, I'll be out in a little bit, honey. I'm on a podcast. Can you please leave me alone?
I need to tell you something.
This is podcast life.
I love it. I love it.
Hi. What's up? Please. I'm serious. Please leave.
Can I go play with basketball later?
Not yet. Wait till Mommy gets home. She'll be home in 5 minutes. Okay? Close this. Please don't come back in. Thank you. Aria, close it and don't come back in, please. She's 5.
That's great. My dog Junie's 5, who was just in here.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, we lost a little bit. My wife went to she went to go pick up local food
Oh, great.
from the farmers market place.
Yeah,
So we're eating seasonally here at the Francisco household,
that's great.
and we try
I
to.
I will tell you one thing about the farmers markets that I don't mean to like rain on your parade, but it's just th- we need to ask at the farmers market, do you spray your food with
Mm,
pesticides and herbicides? We need to ask them, and we need to say, well, then I can't buy your food unless it's organic, the way it used to be. You know, it didn't used to be like organic. It was just like how they grew the crops. But
right.
then, 40 years ago when Roundup came along and Monsanto and so on. So we need, glyphosate, which is the basic ingredient in Roundup, the herbicide. It can cause fatty liver disease. It can cause cancer. Bayer, who's the owner of Monsanto now, they just like put up like a $30 billion fund to stop lawsuits against them and just give money out to the people who are putting the lawsuits against them. So I love farmers markets, but we need to hold them accountable. We need to ask them, are they spraying their food? So sorry.
I no, there's nothing to apologize there. It's funny because like these are 5,000-year-old traditions that we're learning about, and that really isn't that long ago. And it's pretty wild how things have changed since then. And then people are now realizing this, and it's like almost society's going back to that, or trying
Right.
to, right, as much as possible. And
Yeah.
it's damn hard. It's like forcing against quote unquote progress, right? I don't know.
Yes. Capitalism.
Yeah.
I think the term farm to table is so funny because everything was farm to table for 5,000 years. And then suddenly you can charge 3 times as much for the food in your fancy restaurant and call it farm to table.
Uh, I mean that, yeah, when you look at it that way and you say it
Yeah.
that way, it makes so much sense.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
So,
how how civilized we've become, right?
yeah.
How it's really, that's why I love that's why I actually really was hoping you would have said yes to come on, because I think talking about these old traditions that, I mean, when you do something for thousands of years, wouldn't you say you don't need science, like studies behind it, because it was just shown, right? People lived that way.
They did, yeah. But people really like evidence-based medicine
Right.
now. They really, like the science behind it. But it's true that if we have anecdotal evidence from something that's been around forever, and I've been practicing Ayurveda for 12 years, so I have a lot of clients that I've seen really reverse symptoms and get off medication and become happier and healthier and beating things that doctors said they couldn't,
Will you give me one
very,
example of that? Like one specific client that you
oh, there's
obviously no name,
whew,
but
so many, but I just like sort of a conglomeration of IBS people who have irritable bowel syndrome.
okay.
So often doctors just, they throw up their hands. They're like, we don't know. We don't know what to do for you. Medicine's not working. So, but it's very rare that a doctor says, give me a 5-day food journal that you're doing. Tell me about your stress levels. Tell me about your exercise. So I've had many clients, that I have just shifted their diet from eating things that exacerbate vata, because IBS can be a very vata. It can also be pitta. You can have constipation, or you can have diarrhea. You can have lots of cramping and discomfort. So we have to figure out which one it is. And so for like one of my clients who was, she's very thin. She ate what she considered a healthy diet, but she had horrible stomach problems and IBS. And so when I looked at her food journal and saw she was eating, a lot of raw foods, a lot of salad, a lot of cold smoothies, like making protein shakes in the morning, salad for lunch. Mhm. Well, it depends. You have a higher metabolic rate than this person who is mostly vata dosha. Pitta can tolerate that a little bit more, but
But I wanted to. I'll let you keep going.
yeah.
I'll add to
Or
it.
and eating like a late dinner and maybe snacking on things like
Okay.
dry, rough foods like chips or pretzels
Uh-huh.
or crackers. Those things just increase the dryness in the body, and for her it was constipation.
Ah,
And so when she told me this, first of all, I listened to her. This
Yeah.
actually particular woman I'm thinking of, she's now become a health counselor. She's awesome. She was in corporate America, but she healed through Ayurveda. But when I listened to her and I said to her, her name is Christine. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say, Christine, I am so sorry for what you're going through. She started to cry because no doctor had ever even had sympathy for her. Everything she put in her mouth was tearing her gut apart. And for years, and no one said, I'm so sorry, we can fix this. Like no one even told her they could fix it,
Because it sounds pretty
So
healthy on the outside, what she was doing.
yeah, but not for somebody who is primarily Vata dosha, who is air and space. They need much more lubrication. They need warm foods. They need foods that are just have increased moisture and water in them, because the Vata system is so dry. And they must avoid cold foods because their digestive fires are low anyway. And when they eat cold foods, it puts out the digestive fires, and then the food just sits there and it never digests well. And so it ends up either being diarrhea or being constipation, where you can't get rid of it in a proper way. If you have diarrhea, you're not absorbing the nutrients in your food. If you have constipation, same. It's so hard, you can't extract nutrients on the way down. And so by the time it's processed, you're basically, anemic because you're not able to absorb it. So when you put a Vata person on a diet, or a person who has IBS, like this woman, we put her on a diet that concentrated on the food categories of sweet, sour, and salty, and reduced bitter, pungent, and astringent. Bitter, pungent, and astringent wring out excess toxins in the food, but they're also drying on the system. Sweet, sour, and salty add more lubrication and heat to the body, which is what Vata needs and what somebody with IBS needs. So they must eat easy to digest foods. All those foods I described to you previously are hard to digest. It's really hard to break down raw food. You really need to warm up cold smoothies. And we've talked a lot about food combining in Ayurveda. Like we don't mix a lot of different things together. So someone who's making a smoothie with like kale and chard and blueberries and strawberries and protein powder, and then they start throwing in all these Ayurvedic herbs because they've heard of ashwagandha and triphala and brahmi. They're throwing it all into one shake and drinking in the morning. And their body says, can I curse on your podcast?
Sure.
Because I have potty mouth. What the fuck? There's no way I can digest all this food. What, are you kidding me? I've got greens, I've got fruit, I've got these foreign powders. I have no idea what to do with all this. I'm going to give up. You're going to have cramps, you're going to have diarrhea, you're going to be constipated, you're going to be exhausted because your body's working so hard to try and make heads or tails of what you just put in it. So in Ayurveda, and especially for someone with IBS, you have to be simple, easy to digest foods. A bowl of rice, something really, khichdi, which is an Ayurvedic mainstay of split yellow mung beans, basmati rice, some good spices, ghee, some good oils, things that lubricate the body and are easy to digest and extract the nutrients. When we extract the nutrients, we're smarter because we're feeding our brain, and then we can make better decisions. Long answer. Sorry.
That's cool. It's a lot packed with info there, Susan. A lot of info. Well, as a Pitta, what are you, by the way? What's your dosha?
Well, so it's really interesting because we hit different doshas with different stages of life.
Oh.
So I'm just going to say, like, when I start, I'm kind of like a Vata Kapha, because I'm like all over the place. Like Vata is like really like wind and air and space, and I've traveled the world and I go and I do new things, and I'm like, I get excited and enthusiastic about things. And then Kapha helps you like sort of sit down, stay a little bit settled, and get the job done. Pitta is really the fire actually that like ignites getting all of the work done. But you go through different stages. So like right now I'm 57 years old, so I'm post-menopausal. And so when I was in menopause, it was Pitta, Pitta, Pitta. Pitta is fire. Menopause is fire. The overheating of the system, the hot flashes, the mental hot flashes. It's like an emotional wreck when you're going through menopause. Even with Ayurvedic herbs, without the herbs, I don't know where I would have been. But then you settle into this stage, 50s, 60s, 70s, you settle into a Vata stage of life where you explore, you're creative, you're not so worried about things anymore. You don't care about fitting in. I never did anyway, but like, you just like don't, you just like move to this different stage of life. So I would say I'm a pretty good combination of all three doshas right now.
Yeah.
When I began my Ayurvedic practice in 2007, I had a big kapha imbalance. I weighed about 240 pounds, and I had for a while. Kapha is excess weight on the body. And so that's when I decided to go to the Chopra Center in California and have an Ayurvedic detox, which is where I met David G. And
Cool. Cool.
where I did panchakarma, which is these treatments they do to help remove excess dosha. And there was a course at that time called Perfect Health, and David G was one of the teachers. This was 2007. And after that experience, it didn't take very long, but I lost 50 pounds and I lost 80 points of my cholesterol, and I became an Ayurvedic practitioner.
I love it. So yeah, that's so, wow. That's such a beautiful story and you said it earlier too, when you help somebody and now they want to help others. Like the more that can happen, that's why we need more people like Susan in the world. The more that can happen, the better things can be. That's amazing. And that was simply from what? A little bit of a diet change, meditation, more
Well,
meditation.
I'd already been doing meditation and yoga for years,
Okay.
since my 20s. And I was in my mid 40s when I went to the Chopra Center. So yeah, I had been also a vegetarian since I was 16 years old. But I and I worked in a health food store, but I call myself a pea vegetarian. Peanut butter, pasta, and pizza. That was the kind of vegetarian I was. They were cookies and ice cream as well, but it doesn't fit as well as the 3 Ps. But anyway, and so that's why I think when I graduated high school, I probably weighed about 200 pounds. Then I went to live overseas for a while, and I came back and I weighed 220, and then eventually it went up to 237 pounds was the last I saw on the scale, was 237, and then I stopped going on scale. But so when I started the Ayurvedic diet, I basically began what's called a kapha reducing diet. And what I did was I cut out completely dairy, wheat, and sugar. Dairy, wheat, and sugar fall into the category of the taste of sweet, sour, and salty. We're really big on the taste in Ayurveda. We have 6 tastes.
Yeah.
Sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, astringent. And sweet, sour, salty makes up kapha. We're very sweet people. We have a lot of that. It's an emotion. It's an emotion as well as a taste.
Okay.
The word in Sanskrit, it's interesting. The word in Sanskrit, rasa, R-A-S-A, it means a couple different things, but 2 of the main meanings are taste and emotion. So there's no difference there's no not emotional eating. It's all connected. So anyway, so I cut out the dairy, wheat, and sugar for several years altogether. I definitely have put some of that back into my diet. I've got the COVID 10 pounds, I think, going on right now.
Well, I think they call it COVID-19 or whatever. Like literally.
God. Oh my God, if I gained 19 pounds, I would be so depressed. But basically, I've kept off all that weight for 12, 13 years through Ayurveda. So, but in the winter, I do gain a few pounds because that's natural. And then in the spring, summer, it comes off again.
It's interesting because somebody that like practices meditation and is very mindful in Ayurveda, talking about weight so much is like a rare thing to hear. Truthfully, you know what I mean? So is that because that if you gain 19 pounds, you're going to feel like absolute crap? Or do you say that because you're very concerned about weight? I mean, what is the?
Yeah, I think it would make me feel bad. It would at 57, I do notice the extra weight in my joints. I really do.
Okay.
I've been doing yoga since I was in my 20s, and there could be, with extra weight on the body, it can be really hard to feel comfortable in certain poses. And after menopause, it's harder to lose weight. So you don't want to make it hard on yourself. It's really so much about your joints and about your heart and lung capacity.
Do you do brushing on your joints? Do you do the brushing?
I do dry brushing. I love dry brushing. I dry brush my whole body.
So what is like the technique? So is it just, can you explain like how you started? Because I did it once and I'm like, am I doing this right? I don't know, but I love it. It feels great.
So dry brushing is excellent in the summertime for Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, but in the winter, it's not so great for Vata because they have dry skin.
Oh,
But what it does, you use a brush that's specifically made for dry brushing. You do not get it wet. Do not take it in the shower. It's made of a natural bristle. And what you want to do is you want to, I wish I had one with me right now in my bathroom, but you brush up towards your heart. You want to keep brushing up about 8 strokes on each side. Okay.
cool.
And you go a little bit around on your joints if you can, and then continue up towards your heart, and you're doing your whole body, because basically you're cleaning out, it's like this, you're cleaning out the lymph system and all the gunk, and it flows to your heart and it gets cleansed. You do your legs going up, you just keep brushing up
Do you
everything
do your
towards
face,
your
your
heart.
neck at all?
I do my neck, and especially
Okay.
I have arthritis in my clavicle and my shoulders, so I do a lot around my neck and my clavicle. Sorry for the noise, because I want the blood to get moving there, and any ama, so another Sanskrit word, ama, ama, literally means undigested food, but it's toxins in our body, and so we got to get the ama moving out of the body. And dry brushing is an excellent lymphatic, sort of wash to get that all moving out. But we also do abhyanga, which is an oiling. And there's specific oils for each dosha. And we do the oil the same way. We sort of like, you don't have to do it 8 times, but you sort of rub oil deep into your skin, up and down on the long bones and around on your joints. And you let that sit on your skin for a little while to go deep down into your tissues. And then you rinse it off, leaving a thin sheen of oil on your skin to protect from environmental toxins.
Okay, so you end up rinsing it off afterwards
you
with
rinse
like a
it off.
cloth, a wet cloth.
I just let the water do
Just
it.
during, okay.
This is a whole different topic, but we have the microbiome in the gut, and I was talking about, I should mention that serotonin is also produced in the gut, and we sort of like, I went everywhere with that conversation, but the microbiome, if we're eating a good variety of foods and seasonal foods, and we produce the right amount of serotonin, which is sort of that happy chemical that helps us regulate our moods and so on. So it is in your gut. It's not produced in your brain. The skin has a microbiome as well. And these are bacteria, that keep you healthy. We're covered with bacteria in our mouths and our eyes and all over our skin internally and so on. So if we're scrubbing with soaps and brushes and all sorts of stuff underwater, we're removing our natural skin, our natural protection, our natural skin microbiome. And then your body has to work really hard to produce it again. So in Ayurveda, when we do this oil massage, we're helping to protect that microbiome. And by not using soap, I say just use soap in your high traffic areas. Otherwise, just rinse it with water and let it be. There's a new book coming out. I forgot the guy's name. He writes for The Atlantic, but it's called Clean. And he writes a lot about the skin microbiome in The Atlantic as well. So that's something really important to learn about, is to not scrub so much.
There's two. Do you, first, before I say anything, do you wash your face with soap or a specific soap?
So sometimes it's the hot, sweaty summers, and if we're gardening or something like that. Otherwise, I just use water and a washcloth. And then I use coconut oil with a little bit of sweet orange oil in it, or grapefruit essential oil. I use that on my skin, and it's amazing. But otherwise, I will sometimes put some soap on the washcloth and wash my face with it. I don't consider my face a high traffic area, though. It's really like your genitals, under your arms, under your breasts, behind your ears, your feet, where you don't want fungus to grow. Those are areas where I think you probably should use soap. But remember, I am not a doctor. I am not a dermatologist. I'm not.
Disclaimer.
Just a Jewish girl from Baltimore, and this is, I just happen to make my living saying all this stuff. But
just following 5,000-year-old traditions that actually work. So when I was reading your book and you were talking about this kind of thing and removing toxins, which I love the now I can't think, the amas and ojas.
Ama and ojas.
Ama and ojas. Yeah. So I meditate on that sometimes. releasing the toxins and
Oh,
allowing the
great.
sweet nectar to stay inside, that, as
Oh,
David G would
beautiful.
say, right?
Mhm.
So I love that idea. But when I was reading this, I was thinking, okay, these companies create these washes for our body with no consideration probably of the effects of it completely, only just kind of what it's going to do. It's going to clean you. They're more focused on how it's going to clean you, right? And maybe leave you either dry or not dry. But what you're talking about, like I don't believe there's a lot of that taken into factor. The
No,
naturalness, what our
right.
bodies are used to, the history. So I was like, okay, time for me. And I literally threw out like 10 products.
Oh, that's great.
And I went on
Yeah.
a couple sites you recommend in your book and bought some really all natural, including David's toothpaste and some others.
Yeah,
And I
that's
know you just
great.
use, yeah. So I really appreciate you bringing that awareness to me. And I've had it before, I've read it, but not to the extent that you taught it. So it was really
Yeah,
cool.
good. I think it wasn't that long ago, like maybe even the 1940s and 50s, when people still bathed like once a week or twice a week. And otherwise, they just sort of washed at the sink, and um, but also they were dirty. They worked in the fields, they worked in coal yards, they worked on trains. I mean, they really needed to scrub themselves with, lye soap. But it wasn't meant for everyone. I'm sitting in my house all day doing podcasts and writing books. I do not need to scrub with, lye soap at the end of my day. So you got to think of your lifestyle and what's going on with
Yeah.
you, and not buy into every, the commercials or ads that you're seeing.
Yeah.
Take
So,
into account who you are.
yeah. Yeah. And that's now I'm going to do a little bit of me right now with the pitta,
Good.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
So this might be too much information for my audience. I have no idea. But I literally don't have normal poops.
Do you have loose bowel
Yes,
movements?
very.
Yeah. And several a day?
Yeah, 3, yeah, probably.
Okay. Right. So that's
3 at least.
very, very common for pitta dosha.
Is it? And
Absolutely.
like my
Yeah.
business partner, I talked to him and he's like, dude, I sit down for 30 seconds, boom, and I'm done. And I barely need to even wipe. And I'm like, what? That would be a
Exactly.
dream come true.
So he's Kaphic. Kapha has absolutely perfect bowel movements where they hardly need to wipe, except when a kapha is out of balance. Then they do have loose stools and many stools, and it's a mess because they're just eating all this like junk food that's not digesting. For pitta person, it's the excess heat in the body is creating excess bowel movements. The problem is that the food is moving through so fast that sometimes you're not absorbing the nutrients. And the way that I would see this on you, if I could, I could look at your tongue and I could give you some information from doing a tongue reading or feel your pulses and see what's going on with you. But I would absolutely advise staying away from all hot, spicy foods, avoiding ice cold drinks, drinking room temperature or just cool drinks, eating on a schedule, not snacking in between, and eating foods like rice or quinoa, millet, good grains, and some good detoxifying greens in your diet, like almost all greens detox, but bitter greens are best, like arugula, mustard greens, so on. But just a little bit, because they can also ignite a fire, but just a little bit to help cleanse out the system. But yeah, that is very normal for pitta. We talk about bowel movements all the time in Ayurveda because vata dosha is very constipated, as I already mentioned. And so just by learning somebody's, the history of their bowel movements, you can really learn a lot of what's going on with their overall health.
Yeah.
So
That's
what
one
is
of
your
the,
diet like?
so, yeah, good question. So it has been shake every morning, right? And my shake is oats, peanut butter, a scoop of greens, banana, frozen banana. And I'm like, I think I'm being so healthy, right? So I'm in some protein. And I've actually, since I started like Ayurveda, I do the tongue scraping in the morning, brush my teeth, and
Lime.
in my water. Yes, I'm using a lime in my water because I'm a pitta, and it's warmer water that I'm drinking now. And this has just been for a week or so because I'm really conscious of, and I stop my shakes because I want to,
Yeah.
I want normal bowel movements. I feel
Yeah.
okay. I know I can feel better. And then I also I started a probiotic. So I'm like, will this help me? You know?
We'll talk about that in a minute. What are you eating for lunch?
So lunch, that's where I was getting meal service, and it was started to be too much meat because it seems like every meal service is just a lot of meat. But they had meat, vegetables, and it was a hot lunch,
Mhm.
which I enjoyed. But now, honestly, like I either wait to eat my shake until like 10, 11, and then don't eat much until dinner, or for lunch, I sounds sad, but I have like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich,
Mhm.
and that's
Okay.
kind of my lunch with some fruit maybe on the side.
And you're wondering why your bowel movements aren't good? Is that
See,
what you're?
that's the thing is like I'm like I don't know, and then for dinner I'll have salad with chicken or salad with tofu or salad with salmon. A lot of times is the dinner.
What time are you eating dinner?
5:30.
And do you drink alcohol?
No, not anymore. I haven't drinking much really at all in 2 years.
Do
I
you
used to
snack
drink a lot.
after? That's good. I'm glad you don't. Do you snack after dinner?
Yeah. After dinner, I do. I try very hard not to snack, and I usually don't. I'm a big dessert guy, so I do
Mhm.
have some sweets, a small sweet afterwards, like maybe a couple scoops of ice cream or uh, Oreo, 1 or 2 Oreos, just to like make me happy after dinner.
Okay, I'm a big believer in vitamin H, which is vitamin happy, but I would I would prefer that you not do Oreos because they're filled with crap. I don't think there's anything real in an Oreo. So unless you got like Newman's brand of Oreos
Sure.
or some other good cookie or homemade cookies, but I would definitely not do the store bought. That's bad. I wish we could call up a list right now, an ingredient list of Oreos.
No,
I think we'd be
I know how bad
horrified.
it is. I actually say it out loud when we have them, but I'm like,
So
God,
you
these are
can
so good.
fix it. Yeah, but you can fix that. You don't have to. Newman's makes kind of a much more natural Oreo, because
Interesting.
they know
Okay.
people love them. So Newman's
Yeah.
brand is great. Um, but I just want to say about the banana. In Ayurveda, we don't mix bananas with anything. They're very difficult
Interesting.
to digest. They need to be eaten on their own. And to
Ah.
combine them with fruit and vegetables and nut butter is like hell. So, like, don't do
I think my
that.
body agrees with you.
Do not do that. If you're going to do a shake in the morning, what I tell my clients to do if they really want a smoothie
Yeah.
is you got to I just pick either vegetables or fruits, one or the other. Do not mix. Okay. Just berries, vegetables, or greens. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it, if you use a powder, just really try to make sure it's like a good organic, non-glyphosate wheat powder. Like make sure it's really good.
Yeah.
Add a little bit of oil to it, like flaxseed oil, or you could add some chia seeds or flax seeds to it, not peanut butter. That is too heavy for pitta dosha. It's too heating. Nuts are too hot for pitta. No nuts for pitta. But you can have seeds. You can have chia seeds, flax seeds, sesame seeds. It can be a little heating, but pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, those are great. No nuts.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Keep going. Keep going.
And then if you're going to use frozen berries, I want you to add either hot water or you could even do, no, that would be fine. Just add hot water to frozen berries or warm water, room temperature water if they're not frozen.
Oh.
And then just stir that up and that's it. No need to go nuts and put all this stuff together because it's too hard for the body to break down and digest. You want to be
Okay.
simple. Okay. Or
Interesting.
you could eat a bowl of berries and some melon. I mean, you could just do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. You don't have to use the blender, the NutriBullet. You just have a bowl and you eat it. That's like really good.
Oh, man. It's so, yeah. And I've just been so stuck on these shakes, like, oh, this is so healthy. I'm putting all this stuff in there. And then I was adding turmeric sometimes and, interesting. And it's probably
Turmeric,
what's,
yeah, turmeric really needs to be cooked. All those spices and herbs are fantastic, but you need to cook them with a little bit of oil
Wow.
and mix them with your food in order to get the full health benefits from them. It's not the sprinkling onto the turmeric and the cumin. It's really cooking it, releasing the essential oils and nutrients in it, and then digesting
Wow. I
it.
love it. What's the main meal for Ayurveda? What is it? The
Kitchery.
Khichdi.
Uh-huh.
I have all the stuff to cook it. It came today.
Yeah.
And I'm going to cook it either tonight or tomorrow for the family and see how it is.
Great. Awesome. Make sure to add it for you, and your wife looks pretty athletic too, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure.
You probably have a whole Pitta family thing going on.
I mean, she is a Pitta, which I was surprised, honestly, because we kind of, she's not I'm like entrepreneur, go try everything. And she's like the complete opposite. Like she'll sit down and love to just read a book, relax, and just
So she might be Kapha Pitta.
yeah, probably.
Maybe.
I would imagine because I
But
was like
anyway, just add a lot of cilantro to that.
cilantro.
Okay. Just before you serve it, cilantro is like Pitta's best friend. So during the summertime, cilantro, zucchini, cucumbers, coconut water, like all these melons, all these cooling foods. Don't mix your melons with your regular food, though.
Sure.
Keep your fruit separate from your food.
Yeah, that's big. Is the fruit separate from the
Yeah.
separate times, right?
Yeah, I won't get into the whole thing because it's going
So
to
you
take
follow
forever.
this. So you like follow this very rigorously.
It's become a way of life.
Yeah.
I'm not like a rigorous person. I'm not like a Pitta like that. I am much more flexible in my life. And it also depends on the time. Like we are in this really challenging time right now. So I'm very forgiving with myself. If I'm just like I like to eat 2 meals in summer. So I have a meal around like noon, 1 o'clock, and then another around 5 or 6 o'clock, and that's it. But I like the foods that make me feel good right now because everything's so uncertain with the pandemic, and it's a big shift in my business and in the whole world, and worried about my 85-year-old mother. And so I want to eat my good Ayurvedic foods, but I want to be comfortable. So for instance, this morning I made a rice egg bowl. So I made rice, white basmati rice, and I put a fried egg on top of it, and then cumin and coriander and turmeric. And so I got my spices and a little bit, I cooked it in coconut oil. But a bowl of warm rice is just makes you feel good. It's like a comfort food for me. And so look to combine it and see what makes you feel good. And the egg, of course, has vitamin D, and it's very satisfying and lots of nutrients. If you're going to eat 2 meals a day, if you're not vegan, having an egg in there or something like that can be very nutritious and very satisfying.
Wow. This is all great information.
Thank you.
and it's such a like, there's 1,000 different diet books out there, but if we could just go back to the basics, right? Like back to what people did for thousands of years, for me, it only didn't make sense.
Right.
So even if I can incorporate, I don't know, a little bit here and there,
a little bit, yeah,
and figure out what I like and what I don't, I think it is sad that it's so weird with the things that like attach to us, like the fact that I've had this specific shake for like 3 years now, every morning.
Right. And that's not good for your microbiome. We need to eat a variety of foods to feed the bacteria in our gut. They don't want the same thing every day because then they just stop working.
Right.
Yeah. So actually the probiotic you mentioned,
yes,
most probiotics are not effective at all. And if you're eating a good healthy meal with a variety of foods, you don't need a probiotic.
Sure.
I only recommend probiotics if someone is taking an antibiotic. And then I have a special company that I work with called Trenev, Trenev, that another Ayurvedic doctor I know has done extensive testing on their probiotic. I recommend that for 30 days if you're taking an antibiotic. Otherwise, forget it. You don't need it.
Sure.
You don't need it. Yeah.
I think that's why I've stayed away from it for so long, and finally just like, all right, what I go for. I could see why, the benefit and the importance of working with somebody like you, right? Or another holistic coach for sure. Keeping you on track. What else? I mean, like helping us guide ourselves through this Ayurvedic lifestyle. Really, really interesting stuff. Wow. Has it become like westernized at all? You know what I mean? Like, is it, since it's come over here, that in a good or bad way?
Yeah, I think it's fine. Ayurveda is like a living science. It's not like written in stone. It was an oral tradition that was handed down. So I definitely think there's lots of practitioners like myself and other ones that are really creating modern recipes, looking at our modern lifestyle, and how do we fit this in? Absolutely. Like I said, I'm not like a rigid person, and I take from other things as well, like homeopathy and Chinese medicine, and I use lots of different remedies with my clients. It's not all 100% Ayurveda,
I see.
but I look at their dosha and I look at where they're out of balance, and then I look to fix it through that. But no, we get like the smoothie situation, like, we had to fix that because everybody wanted smoothies. So I do it by trying to make it room temperature instead of ice cold, and not to mix the fruits and veggies. So yeah, we definitely can work with it. And like just so many the individual lifestyles. Look, Ayurveda comes from India, where it's like it's either hot or wet, or if you live in the north, it's cold. But it's like not. They don't have that kind of climate variation. They don't have the springtime or the autumn in most places. They do in some places, but they don't have that. And so we needed to adjust that in Ayurveda to help our clients work with the seasons and eat with the seasons. So yeah, we have definitely can make it adjust it to how we live now, for sure.
That makes sense. Cool.
Yeah.
What is your, I wanted to ask you this, I didn't get a chance to, what does your meditation practice look like today?
I have to be honest with you. I've been meditating since I knew you were going to ask, because that's all you asked the other people. So it's like, do I tell them the truth? Like, I get up every morning at the crack of dawn and I sit in my space and I do my mantra, and it's just not happening like that right now. Since COVID began, and like we kind of really felt it around the end of February and beginning of March, my husband and I stopped going out, and we're taping this in July. So I found when I meditated, I would get very nervous, and all the possibilities of what was happening, I really couldn't chant them away or mantra them away in my head. And my meditation was upsetting to me. It wasn't working. I've been meditating since I was about 27 or 28, so it's been a long time. And I've been to many, many silent meditation retreats. I have a deep meditation tradition behind me. Been teaching meditation for more than a decade. But during this COVID pandemic, I have found it very hard to sit down and find a nice space, or even a space to examine my emotions and reactions. So I'm not doing it first thing in the morning. I used to sit this is actually our second bedroom where I meditate, because I can face east to the rising sun in this room. And that's where you really want to sit facing east to meditate. So in the morning, so you get the energy of that rising sun. If you're going to meditate in the evening, facing north is good, because you get the cooling energy from the northern light. So I have found that I let my meditation sort of come to me during the day. At some point during the day, it dawns on me. It says, oh, now you can be still. Now I'm feeling better. Now I got more of a handle on the day. I did some of my routine things. Now I can sit still and do my mantra for 20 minutes or half hour. So I'm not forcing anything during this time. There's so much uncertainty. We can be scared. We can also be happy. Like, I love the peace. Like, there's so much peace and quiet now, there's some beautiful silver lining things that have come from this. But so there's so many, and then you think like, how can I like love the atmosphere now when there are people who are so sick and dying, and when this pandemic is out of control in America? And if I can be political, we have absolutely no leadership. None. But in my state, Maryland, we have a really good governor, Hogan, who really got control of things. And we're one of those states where it's dropping, steady or dropping, but still, you got to be so vigilant. And my personal business, no more. Teaching cooking, 20 people in my teaching kitchen, no. Seeing clients one-on-one, no, only through Zoom. Taking people to India, Bhutan, Nepal, I took people like, all over the world. I can't take people on trips anymore. So there's a whole lot of like shifting and like, what is life going to look like? I mean, and that's just me, and everybody's going through this now. So we have to be forgiving and kind to ourselves. And I have to be like, I can't sit at 7 in the morning and meditate for 30 minutes. I'm too freaked out.
Mm.
I have to go through some rituals and my daily Ayurvedic rituals and so on before I feel calm enough that I can sit and meditate. And that's what it is. That's just what it is.
Yeah. And thank you for being impeccable with your word, Susan. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah, because I think there's something so powerful to what you said for people listening. Is sometimes we just have to listen to what the universe and our body and our mind is telling us and not force everything all the time. And I really appreciate that message. I do, because I need to hear that sometimes too,
Yeah.
especially as a pitta.
Exactly. You can be really rigid and hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Be very perfectionistic. And we just can't be perfect when we have something going on outside of us that we know nothing about and we can't change. So we must be kind to ourselves. We must be easy on ourselves. I haven't had alcohol for a couple of years. I loved having a glass of wine every night. I did that for years. And a glass, it starts off here and then the glass is here, right? And I did that almost every night for years. And my husband and I went to India. I mean, I go a lot, but we were there together, just me and my husband, which was unusual. We did Panchakarma in India, the cleanse, for 3 weeks. Beautiful place called Vedic, which is an amazing place in Coimbatore in the south of India. And those 3 weeks, no coffee, no alcohol, and they feed you and everything. It's beautiful. When I came home, I decided no coffee, no alcohol. That was the bookends of my day: coffee in the morning, wine at night. And I just stopped. And I stopped for 2 years, and it was amazing. Then pandemic hit, and the smell of coffee started to smell really comforting in the morning. So, and I started buying half and half, which is not good for me. Okay.
For people listening, your face when she said that was like a surprise, like completely
it's
surprise.
it's like heroin. It's not. And I was making like half a cup of coffee and half a cup of half and half, which is what I did when I weighed 240 pounds. And so I reined that in, and I started using vegan creamers like nut pods, which I love, or just like almond milk, but I'm having coffee and it's very comforting. And I started having a little bit of alcohol in the evening, a couple times a week, usually white wine. The red wine, it makes me sick now. I can't even drink it when that was my drink. So I make a glass like that of white wine and I drink that much and my husband drinks the rest. But I'm like, you know what, Susan? It's okay. It's okay. It's like, it's working right now just a little bit. And I know that as we get more into creating a lifestyle around pandemic, that will also go away. But it's, you're alive, you're human. Sometimes you just need things. I'm loving the coffee in the morning. I put a little bit of coconut oil in it. I do like sometimes you put ghee in it instead of coconut oil.
Yeah.
Which actually makes it, and a little bit of cardamom, which makes it easier to digest. And then for me, I'm not hungry in the morning, so I don't eat until 12 or 1, but that coffee's like a freaking meal.
It is. I can tell. Do you get a lot of people when you talk to you? They're like, "I need to be best friends with you, Susan. You are so cool and fun." Because that's the feeling I'm getting right now.
Aw, we can be best friends. You just can't come over without a mask.
All right, fine. And you take maybe in like when this is all over, we can go to India or something, because that would be amazing.
Right.
Next group you take.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have you on here for hours and hours. And I feel like we could talk about India, because I would love to know more about those experiences and stuff. But I like to keep it an hour to keep everybody's, time appreciated. And that's the right word I'm looking for, valued. So I'll ask you, and again, this was amazing and I could talk for forever with you. If you could, and you know what I'm going to ask, but if you could go back,
Yeah.
and I love just hearing people's responses to this, and just tell your 18-year-old self anything and they would listen, what would you say to them?
It makes me cry. And it's a beautiful question that you ask people. I would say, don't worry. Just don't worry so much. You're going to be fine. You're just going to be fine. Calm down, slow down, just take it easy. But just don't worry. It's all going to work out. So, and it has, and it continues to. And my life is just blessed and amazing. And my 18-year-old self was a wild child who had to try everything at least once, if not 10 times.
Wow.
So, but because I was worried that everything was going to pass me by, or I wouldn't look right, or I wouldn't do this, or I wouldn't do that. Just like relax, so yeah.
Beautiful. To relate, I think that's why meditation has impacted me so much, because that's who I was like, oh my God, I'm going to miss out on this. I mean, FOMO was a major thing for me, fear of missing out. And now it's literally gone. Like,
yeah.
And that's why I think meditation has been, and I have to throw that in there because I want more people to meditate. So I have to keep plugging that as much as possible.
My new book has meditations for the season, regular meditation, as well as chakra-based meditation for each season. And I just came up with them from within, but some of them are based on what I learned from the Deepak Chopra and David G work that I did. But you just, and I love them. And I hope that book comes out in December, and I hope that people will find those useful and helpful.
Ooh, I love that. Maybe you can turn that into like an Insight Timer course or something.
Oh yeah, I love Insight Timer, my favorite app. Yeah, maybe I will.
Yeah, totally. You totally should.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Susan, so much.
Yeah, Justin, you're awesome. And I love how you're just expanding what you've just come into contact with in your life, and you're sharing it with such brightness and positivity and openness. And I love it. So you just keep going. It's great.
I appreciate it. And I thank you so much. The reason I'm trying to incorporate Ayurveda, because I feel like it brought it into my life at the right time, is I'm like totally just trying to figure out how to make my body just excrete a little bit better than I'm doing now. Even though I think that I'm healthy, it's weird. It's wild. So
you're good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Tell Larry I said bye.
I will.